Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining today's webinar, Building NextGen Warehouses, Transforming Operations through Data Science. Anna, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us for today's webinar. I'm Dr. Anna Johnson, and I'm Vice President of Corporate Development, Marketing, and the PMO at United States Cold Storage. And we're happy to have you all on our webinar today. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar and during the presentation, go ahead and type them into the chat box on your screen, and we'll try to bring them up during the presentation, and we also have time for questions at the end. So either way, we'll make sure that we address all those questions. I don't think anybody's on their video, but if you are, turn it off. And we are going to be recording this webinar. So you'll get a copy of it at the end, I think like 15 minutes after the webinar's over. So today we are excited to present with our friends from Graminear, and the title of this webinar is Building NextGen Warehouses, Transforming Operations Using Data Science. So before we start our presentation, I'm going to introduce our participants and their respective companies. So the first company joining us today is my company, United States Cold Storage. US Cold is the third largest temperature-controlled third-party logistics provider in the United States. We have 43 warehouses across 13 states, and we employ about 3,500 people. And then joining us from US Cold today are some of our folks that have been part of this project: Srini Gudipati, Tim Herm, Dinesh Patra, and Steve Pilevsky. So gentlemen, can you please go around and introduce yourselves and the role you've played on this project?
Hello, my name is Srini Gudipati. I am the Vice President of Information Technology and Digital. I've been with the company for 20 years.
Hello, my name is Tim Herm. I'm Area Director for our Northeast region. I've been with US Cold for 10 years, and our site in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania was one of the pilot sites for what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm having some issues with my webcam and my audio, but hi, this is Dinesh Patra. I'm the Data Science Practice Lead at United States Cold Storage, and welcome you all to this webinar.
Hi, I'm Steve Pilevsky. I'm the General Manager here at the McClellan Park facility for United States Cold Storage. I've been with the company 21 years, just about going on 22. I had the privilege to help contribute to the Intelligent Appointment Scheduler development, which is something we're going to talk more about here in depth last year, and had the privilege again to participate in its development and see it to full fruition to the companies the locations that we're now using.
Thank you, guys. In partnership with us today is Graminear, and Graminear is a design-led science company that helps solve complex business problems with compelling data stories using insights and a low-code analytic platform. And joining us from Graminear today are two presenters, Sunil Kardam and Arandam Roy. So gentlemen, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and then give us a little bit of background on how you're part of this project.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. This is Sunil, and I'm Supply Chain and Logistics Head at Graminear. We are very excited about our partnership with USGS and also to provide us an opportunity to be working as their partner on this data science journey. It is my team that worked on this interesting project, and the project has been very interesting that we'll talk more about on this call, just not from the implementation part, but also the data culture change that it brought forward. So we'll talk more about that soon. Arindam?
Thanks, Sunil. Hello, everyone. I'm Arindam Roy, and I currently lead the solutioning practice at Graminear. I've been with Graminear for around 5 years now and have an overall experience of 11 years in driving data science and digital transformation initiatives for some of the leading Fortune 500 organizations. I lead the USGS relationship from Graminear. That would be me. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to be part of this, this webinar. Today, we are discussing US Cold's challenge to scheduling carrier appointments and the opportunities that are associated with that, and how we partnered with Graminear to move away from a manual scheduling process to a digitally driven one. So we're going to start with Steve. Can you kind of explain the process of appointment scheduling and receiving carriers at U.S. Cold facilities? And I mean, I think just in general in the industry.
Yeah. Again, being with the company 21 years, I've seen scheduling be as simple as taking a phone call, writing it down on a piece of paper when somebody's going to come, and just servicing the truck when they arrive, to now very complicated scheduling where we need to effectively put things on the schedule so that we could create manageable turn times. So the challenge for us was having to have associates be able to manage a schedule through email, phone calls, and to be able to create a workload that's manageable for the warehouse to achieve throughout the day. So to be able to accomplish this, what we've had, the best tool that we had prior to engaging into our development with the intelligent appointment scheduler was to just take an X amount of appointments per hour and pretty much work by that kind of a rule. There was no intelligence to why or how we put things on the schedule. So and now with the appointment scheduler, we have the ability to use our data and all of our previous history to be able to effectively schedule and create good turn times.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I was asking about the pandemic, and has that created any additional challenges around carriers and capacity, driver availability, things like that have made it more challenging?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. This past year with shortages of trucks and driver hours, drop trailers made it much more difficult to be able to schedule effectively. So and employee shortages throughout the day. This is why we needed a really accurate tool that would help us determine the best time of day to be able to put something on the schedule that will achieve success for the warehouse. And with the tool that we use right now, it's a dynamic tool. It's always changing, always looking at the activity. Every time we put something on the schedule, it readjusts and realigns and provides the best choice for the scheduler, a best recommendation for them to choose to accommodate the appointment. One of the other factors to consider is that things change all the time. So our scheduler is not just using the data from the past, but it's learning as it's going along, and it's understanding the needs of the particular carriers down to the individual carrier, using its performance history to determine, again, the best opportunity to place them on the schedule to achieve the best turn time.
Great. Tim, can you describe the challenges that the employees have with kind of that manual process, and even how that affects the carriers with our old manual process? Yeah.
Sure. So most of our schedulers at this point are using email, as communication between themselves and the carriers. So there's a lot of back and forth. Obviously, a carrier comes in, they request a day, time. Our scheduler is going, back to them with an alternative. Sometimes our scheduler needs to check with management, whether it's operations manager or superintendent, to check to see if they can go outside of kind of the parameters that we have in place. So there's this lot of back and forth where it could take literally 4 to 6 hours, to finish up that communication piece. So today with the intelligent appointment scheduler, again, that time is really cut. The communication is cleaner. So from an employee perspective, our schedulers can fairly quickly communicate back to the carrier the day time that works. Carrier can come back and say okay, and again, the communication piece has really been cleaned up with a lot less time going back and forth.
Does it take a lot of time for the employees and the schedulers to figure out the art of appointment scheduling in the manual process?
Yeah, one of the unique things with the appointment scheduler, or the intelligent appointment scheduler, is that it's integrated in our system. So as soon as our scheduler goes in, creates an appointment in our warehouse management system, it automatically takes them to the screen for the intelligent appointment scheduler. So there's no having to click on another icon. There's nothing like that. It automatically takes them there. So it's a very clean, quick process. And then again, the system, as you'll see later on during our webinar, we'll give them the parameters for which would best fit that truck.
And how did we know, Tim, this is to you, how do we know that US Cold was ready for this kind of digital solution for carrier appointment scheduling?
Well, I mean, I think we're always looking to get better, to do things better. We're all work in progress. So, one of the big things, and Steve alluded to, is we have all of this data that we've collected through all the years in our warehouse management system, and how can we cultivate that data to help us be better? And this goal was to turn trucks, make sure we're turning trucks in a timely fashion, turn as many trucks as we can. With all the parameters that affect that. It's not just about number of people in the warehouse, it's about order sets and carrier on time and all those other things. So utilizing all that has just really been the key to having this be successful as it has been at the sites.
Great. And our IT team has partnered with the facilities to kind of come up with these solutions. So Srini, I'm interested to kind of get your perspective on partnering with the facilities, how we came to the decision to kind of work on this particular problem or this particular opportunity from an appointment scheduling perspective.
Yeah, sure. I think back in 2018 is when we really began the journey of building platforms for the data. So initially we were focusing on really analytics and insights, where we were trying to attack the front end, the aspect of the displaying the analytics to the end users. But then in 1920, that's where we realized we don't really have a capability to look into prescriptive and predictive analytics. So that's where we onboarded Dinesh, and who really did a fantastic job of building the platforms for us. But when it comes to really the data science practices, we really didn't have any capabilities. So we started exploring in I think towards the end of the 19 with a small pilot engagement. And we invited a bunch of partners, and Graminear is one of them. And they have done a superb job of not only delivering the solution, the pilot on time, but they have really demonstrated the ability to digitally transform the organizations to be data-driven, like organizations. I think that's where we got so excited, and we really asked them to kickstart the process of finding problems and really delivering the solution to the end user. We also have onboarded people like Steve and Tim in the beginning itself to really get their a kind of involvement in the process itself. So it's really helped with adoption. So Graminear really has been a great partner in terms of really connecting the end-to-end aspect of delivering the data science solutions, really engaging with the warehouse operators, the IT folks, and their folks. Built a solution all in all. I think overall it was a great experience so far.
Yep, I would agree. And yes, US Cold is very happy to have Dinesh as part of the team. So Dinesh, when we brought you on and kind of started this data science journey, can you tell us kind of a little bit about the partnership with Graminear and how you guys designed and kind of developed and deployed the IAS system?
Sure. So it all started pre-pandemic era, right? As Srini was mentioning, 2019, right? When we did a big bang with a workshop where we invited all key stakeholders from our company, and we tried to identify all the problems that can be solved through data. And gladly, we got around 100 problems like with us, and we then categorized into different buckets, like what's an analytics, what's descriptive, what's predictive, what's prescriptive, and then we identify our top 3 problem statements, and the first one was turn time, which as we kind of gave it to Graminear as a pilot, and they were they kind of delivered successfully, right, in 3 months time frame. That led to the inception of this intelligent appointment scheduler.
So that was a 3-month time frame from design to deploying the pilot, or was that the entire?
So they gave us a proposal for we gave them a 3 months project. So where they had this a very good UI front end to it as part of their solution as well. So we had an end-to-end solution which had a front end. There is a data modeling aspect, there is a data science aspect, there is a data integration aspect. So they gave us that pilot in 3 months time frame. And then based on our discussions with GMs and other key stakeholders, we thought, this is a good initiative, and we should extend it to our intelligent appointment scheduler. So which had its own timelines, and it took us around 4 months to develop the standalone system for IS with the help of the GMs and other key stakeholders, and then we did it across 3 sites in our company, and which was then further integrated into the operations in next 3 months. So end to end, if you look at a time frame, it took us around 7 months to get IS up and running across 3 warehouses in our company.
And how many warehouses is IS deployed in now?
So as of this year, our goal was to ensure that we roll out this application to all our legacy sites, and we have completed all the legacy sites who are in WMS have IS. So.
And how many is that?
So you can say 26. We are also in a process of moving from our legacy to our new system. So some numbers get dropped. So yeah, we can say we have 26 sites which have IS.
Great. And you talked a little bit about the pilot process, but can you share with us a little bit about the approach outside? So you completed the pilot, and then how did you continue, or did you continue to develop of the functionality as you go?
Yeah, so the good part with partnering with Graminear is they were kind of keeping us involved at every step, right? So we used to have our daily stand-ups, so we used to have our bi-weekly discussions with business like GMs, the stakeholders. And we started this project in 2-step approach. We first thought we'll make it less intrusive on our end users, and we'll build a standalone system where we can get all appointments and we can schedule and see what's the turn time it's giving, right? So that was our first thing, and which was validated by the warehousing team. And once they feel comfortable in that system, then we work with our operational system, our legacy, and then we integrated this and made it a full-fledged integrated solution.
Awesome. And then, Arindam, from your perspective, how did you guys approach, from a Graminear perspective, I guess, how did you approach the project when you guys first started partnering with us?
So, from Graminear end, along with the partnership with USS, we tried to follow a scalable approach, which was based on the analytical maturity as well as the evolution of the solution. So we started off, with a diagnostic analytic to demonstrate what is the impact of the scheduling process, right? And we did this with the GMs and the other stakeholders who were involved. This was followed by predicting the turn times based on the scheduling decisions that the schedulers were making. And eventually, we went on to generate recommendations for the schedulers to set up the appointments for the upcoming schedules. Now, the introductory solution that we created, that was made lightweight. We used our own Gramex, which is a low-code data science platform, and this was done for a limited pilot warehouses. And Steve and Tim were all part of that journey. And as the solution matured over time, we were able to industrialize that across 26 facilities, as Dinesh mentioned. And across the life cycle of the solution, we worked very closely with the business and the technology stakeholders to make sure that the integration is very seamless into their operational processes. So that's the approach that we have been using, in this engagement.
So you mentioned low code, the low code platform. What is that, I guess, and what's the advantage of a low code platform?
So the low-code platform is a platform which provides us microservices and certain modules which are ready to use. So in a general application development, you would spend a lot of time to develop this from scratch. But having a data science low-code platform, you would basically crunch that timeline very effectively by leveraging the microservices that comes right away from the platform. So that basically decreases your time to market in terms of building these kind of data science application. And also it makes sure that your application is very robust, which can handle all the possible scenarios that the system can generate.
Right. And then how did we prove the value of this solution to our users and to the GMs in the warehouses?
Right. So once we deployed the solution for the pilot warehouses and eventually for the other warehouses too, we followed a method like every week or every fortnight we used to get together and look at all the appointments that were scheduled through the system and all the other appointments which were due to some reasons were not going via the system. We tried to analyze the turn times on both those sets and saw that the ones which were going to the system were having a very effective and very efficient turn times, compared to the ones which were not going through. So by that, we started rolling out the value and also creating that trust on the application for the warehouses which were supposed to be onboarded in future.
Great. And Sunil, how did you guys roll out the system to our USCS cold crew?
Okay, so Anna, I would say that rollout was tricky, and the reason being, whenever a huge data science project has been done for any company at such a scale, adoption generally is a problem. And what it really takes to be successful is the continuous and consistent leadership support that we have totally seen from beginning to the end from USCS side, and that has in particular made the difference. If I were to put that in perspective, how that really worked is initially we thought if we do a big bang approach, people may like it, they may not like it. We didn't know. But the leadership team was totally cognizant of how it should be sold to the employees, especially schedulers in this case. So they convinced them just to take a standalone small piece with minimum basic features, use it, and give the feedback, which they eventually agreed, whether like which bent of mind they were, but they thought let us do it because our management is saying it may have merit. Once they started using it, slowly they realized definitely it is going to make their lives easier and it is going to be an effective solution, and definitely they can cut down on the time the way they were doing processes earlier. And eventually when we reached at this stage, it was actually employees who were asking for more features. So that means the idea is sold and the hard part has been done because of the management team. So that is what it really takes. If you will ask me like how we were able to get it through the employees. And the next part was cranking. Then we added more features to it. Employees were expecting it and they were totally onboarded. But we made sure that every time we add new features, the thorough training has been done, change management has been handled, of course, with the involvement of leadership team. And the last and the smallest piece was to integrate everything with the main WMS system on the technology front, but it was more about application development, and we took care of very well along with USCS, and that created the success. So that is about it.
And great. Let's hear from Tim on the kind of the USCS side, and from your perspective, how was the process of introducing the system to the schedulers? Did they like it? What was their feedback?
Well, I think initially, like most things that are change, there's a little bit of resistance. But again, I think the big part of the rollout was being able to integrate that with our WMS system, so it didn't create additional time or the concept of time as you know your crew members may have in terms of when you're starting to add some things. And then eventually they found as they start to use it more often that it was making their jobs easier. It was making that communication piece easier. I think the other part of it was as well, our schedulers will typically go back to management when there's things outside of the norm or outside of what they're allowed to do from a scheduling perspective, and it really cut down on that need for communication internally as well. So again, that just helped the whole process and helped them buy into it a little bit easier and a little bit quicker.
And they could kind of see the appointments that they were using the IS system, and see how those flowed versus the ones that they were doing manually, right?
Correct. So internally, what we did as an organization through Tableau is actually have the results available to everybody in a dashboard. So you could look at your site, you know, whether it's Bethlehem or McClellan Park where Steve's at, and see, you know, how often the IAS tool is being used by your team, your staff. You can see even down to the you know, the crew person who's using it and who isn't using it, and it helped us develop, okay, why, you know, what are the issues. There is also a part of the IAS system that if you go outside of what's being recommended, you can put in the reason why. You know, why is that? Why are you scheduling it outside of the recommendations? So again, it's that constant communication and back and forth to just improve the process.
Fantastic. And then Steve, you know, how long has the system been in place for you at McClellan Park? And, you know, kind of what are the carriers saying about it? What are you hearing from your schedulers? What kind of feedback have you gotten?
So the new system's been in place for about a year now. We're getting very good feedback from our carriers. There's a nice improved screenshot that goes out to them that shows them their schedule with all their appointments. It has a QR code on there, so when they arrive, they can actually show the QR code. We could scan it, and we could make ease of check-in. We don't miss any. We don't require them to tell us all the different orders they're picking up. When we scan that QR code, everything will populate for us on our side. So not only has it helped the carriers, it's made a smoother check-in process, but it's also added a validation process for us too about what exactly they're picking up by when we scan that QR code. We have all the information at our fingertips. A couple of things I just really quickly wanted to add, as Tim was mentioning and others, really what made it successful for the company, and specifically here, being one of the first plants to get involved with it, we actually used the employees' involvement, the people who were scheduling. We went to them and we said, how can we make your job easier? So this was actually partially developed by the users. And then we went to them and got their feedback. Every time we made a development week by week, we were like, how does this look, and what changes would you recommend? So we used their feedback to improve the system. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we wanted to make it a very simple and easy design. Nothing complicated, something that you do what you do normally, but it helps you in your scheduling. So we made a very easy design. And lastly, we made it integrated. So even though it was a standalone system, it's now integrated. When you use the existing system, it just takes you to the other system. And at the most valuable part of the whole thing, though, is anybody can walk over and do scheduling. And that's the key right there, because scheduling used to be somebody who had a lot of knowledge of the operation, the trucks, the turn times, and they think they did, but it was based on what they thought. Now, anybody can walk over, read an appointment, take an email, read their request from the carrier, plug it into the schedule, and be able to see the effect that it's going to have on the turn time. And that's key right there, because we are showing immediately the effect that if you put this appointment at this time, here's what we are predicting you will do to the turn time of that hour or of that day. So everything is very real time. And now the scheduler, whoever it is coming to schedule, has real buy-in of what the turn time of the day is going to be.
Yeah, and so kind of along those lines, what are some of the results or improvements you've seen in your operation by using IAS?
We've seen a much more balanced schedule throughout the day, where we were seeing peak hours where we had long delays, turn times, like parts of the day where turn times are great, and other parts of the day where turn times were very long. Now we're seeing more of a flat line where turn times are averaging smoothly throughout the entire day.
Tim, what about you? Are you seeing anything else as a result?
Yeah, I think we are seeing, in terms of number of trucks, more trucks turned in a timely fashion on a daily basis. So we're seeing a higher percentage of that occur using this system versus, you know, kind of what we were doing prior to that.
Excellent. Well, now that we've kind of learned what IAS as a system is, we're going to turn it over to Matthew Burgess, and he's going to walk us through a demo of the system so you guys get to see it. It's almost
Hello
there.
and welcome to the Intelligent Appointment Scheduler demo. My name is Matt Burgos and I'm an Associate Principal Data Consultant with Graminear. Today we'd like to talk to you a little bit about how this solution works and how it impacts the average turn time for appointments and how we're reducing that average turn time across a day and a week, and not necessarily just optimizing a single appointment, but matching up appointments with the correct labor and the correct timing given other appointments that we have scheduled on a day. So we can see here at the beginning that we have a list of our appointments. We see our appointment number, our customers, as well as the users who are going to be scheduling these appointments. So before we jump into scheduling one appointment, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at our overall schedule. And here we can see all of the work that IAS has done in the background, and we can see our average turn time for the day. We can also see the number of appointments, and then we can see the number of appointments here that are on each specific time interval. So we can see the counts there. And this is going to give us a broad overview of the day and help us understand which time intervals are going to be our busiest throughout this day. So let's go back and check out how we can schedule a truck. So let's go ahead and select this appointment here, number 17695, and then we'll click schedule. Give this a second to load. There we go. Now here we can see we have our appointment information across the top, including the date, the scheduled time, and then also our recommended time slot. We can look here on the time part of this chart. You can see this area here is the same type of line graph that was given in the schedule tab. However, this is going to be specifically for this appointment and help us understand the differences between scheduling this appointment at our number 1 recommended slot versus, let's say, a non-recommended slot. So I'll point your attention here to our average turn time on the day, which is 1.61. Let's say I scheduled this appointment for a non-recommended time, and that's going to increase our average turn times by 0.02 or 0.03 hours there. So yeah, 0.02 to 1.63. So here we can see that we have various amounts of machine learning working in the background here. So our actual appointment scheduling algorithm is a gradient boosting type algorithm that's working there. At the bottom, we can see this bar chart here that represents our labor and where that labor is going to be working, whether it's working on current appointments or future appointments. And there, that's a Hungarian algorithm that takes in different product factors, including quantity, weight, and then also the type of tasks that are associated with those orders to help us find, again, the optimal slot, not only for this appointment, but also for all appointments. So once I got done scheduling this truck and I picked a time slot that works for my facility and is within those recommendations, we would go ahead and schedule that. Now, let's say for whatever reason, the only feasible option I had is say 9 a.m., which is not one of the recommended time slots provided. We could go ahead and select that feedback button. And this is going to give us an area for us to be able to identify why we didn't use a recommended slot. And as we track that, we can use that information in the future, whether that's just working with a specific facility to help dial in the algorithm or just track a little bit of what about some of the issues that the schedules are running into while they're scheduling trucks. So once this appointment has been scheduled, we would get a screen like this, which has a QR code here, and again, all of our order and detailed information. And we could go ahead and send this off to either our transportation provider or our customer, and then that way the driver for this appointment has all of the information that they need to check in at our security gate and be ready to be loaded. So that is really what we have here to show, a very quick demo, and we just really want to emphasize how we can use IAS to really impact the turn times throughout the course of the day, which involves selecting time slots that, again, are not necessarily just optimal for the one, but balances that workload across a facility's working hours and finds the optimal slot for the staffing and labor that is available as well. So thanks, I appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to discussing more of the solution later.
Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate that. Hopefully that gave everybody a good perspective on what the Intelligent Appointment Scheduler solution looks like that Graminear developed for United States Cold Storage. And I really appreciate all of the presenters taking their time to talk with us today. And we are getting some questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and start to address some of those. So if you have a question in the audience, if you want to type it in your chat box, we'll be sure to address those. So the first one is to the United States Cold Storage team. And one of our participants wants to know if our intelligent appointment scheduler applies to the logistics team when scheduling outbound appointments for cold share consolidation loads. So cold share consolidation is our transportation consolidation program that United States Cold Storage runs and consolidates shipments from multiple manufacturers onto single trucks for full truckload shipments into our retailers. So does the intelligent appointment scheduler apply to our cold share consolidation?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, go ahead.
I was going to say yes. Originally, we exclusively used it in the warehouse, and once we felt the warehouse had a good grasp and understanding of the scheduler and there was ease of use, we mandated it now for anybody using the scheduler for the plant, and that includes the cold share consolidation as well.
Great. And then for the Graminear team, can the system be customized to include additional business logic?
Yes, it does. Since the system is developed using the Gramix low-code platform, it can be customized to great extent. That is one additional feature that comes along with the platform, right? Where you can add custom business logics with very less effort, right? While this system evolved, we added many enhancements and customizations to handle the custom processes that are being followed across many warehouses. So the process in one warehouse is different from the other. So we could put those customizations into the system. So yes, answer is yes to that.
And we've currently done that now, because even within US Cold, as we roll from plant to plant, we realized that there are some specialties that each plant is doing. So we had to stop, use the same platform, but make some amendments to what we created and have a specialty for that logic that was needed for that location.
Absolutely. All right, and so again, for the Graminear team, is the intelligent appointment scheduler easily scalable?
I'll take that. So yes, the solution is scalable. Reasons are many things, because it is built on Gramix and it has got customizable components. So that adds to that flexibility. That is one. And if needed, just not in one warehouse, many warehouses can be keep adding to it just to fulfill to the demand. So it is like once you created one instance, it can be replicated, or for the same instance, you can keep adding more. So it is totally applicable, and scalability is ensured, aligned to the business growth. So answer is again yes.
Great. And then USCS, have we seen a reduction in the total hours spent unloading and loading trucks as a result of this?
I could speak from our warehouse. Yes, we have, and we measure that. We go back and we look at that from history to today, and we've seen a great improvement. We're always looking at turn times. And again, at the beginning, now everybody's using it, but at the beginning, we were constantly measuring those who were using it versus those who were not using it, meaning the suggested appointments versus the non-suggested appointments. And we absolutely validated an improvement.
I think in terms of number of hours, there's really no difference. I mean, there's an efficiency improvement, which is a little bit more, I think, more to highlight here, where we're being more efficient on our docks. We're being more efficient in how we're scheduling trucks, so we can, manage that labor piece a little bit better. As far as reduction in hours, it's, I think as most people, if they're on the call and they're in the warehousing and distribution business, they're struggling for labor to begin with. So not quite there yet, but efficiency improvements are without a doubt have been part of this.
Great. And then for the Graminear team, how does the system find the most optimal slot for a to-be scheduled appointment?
Yeah, I'll take that. So basically, the system tries to predict the turn time for a to-be scheduled appointment across all the open slots, right, wherever the warehouse is operating at, right? And then it tries to make a recommendation based on three criteria. One is, firstly, it tries to look at the best turn time for that particular appointment. Okay, and then second, it tries to look at the impact on all the other appointments because of that particular appointment. And thirdly, it tries to be as close as possible to the requested slot. Now, all these three factors combine together and then generate the recommendation in terms of which is the most optimal hour for this appointment to be scheduled. So that's the process that we're using internally.
And then can IAS be integrated with other TMS or other warehouse management systems?
Yes, I'll take that one. So yes, it can be integrated with other TMS systems like Mercury Gate. You know, kind of how Steve was talking about the QR codes, and I went over in the demo. There's places for us to be able to integrate with those systems seamlessly.
Great. And then, so in the case study, like the actual paper, someone said that we saved over $300,000 in just 1 quarter using Intelligent Appointment Scheduler. That's incredible. Are you guys planning to scale it up to other facilities? Rainey? Yes.
Well, that's the objective, right? So basically, the bottom line is the cost savings at some point. So initially, it was very hard to predict where the savings are. Focused on really keeping the turn times low. Really, want to streamline the process there, but we ultimately realized that there are savings that are coming out of it. So and that's a motivation for the adoption as well.
Right, for the Graminear team, is IAS compatible with other technologies? Does IAS replace a WMS?
I can take that. Typically what IAS does, it magnifies the efficiency of scheduling. So I would say that IAS is not there to replace WMS, but to enhance it. And always, whenever a WMS is implemented by any warehousing companies, there are always areas which cannot be really optimized by WMS alone, which is why this solution fits in very good. So that completes the first answer. And second part of the question is whether it is compatible with other technologies. Yes, it does. Whether it is related to ERP or a standalone WMS or best of the breed solution, or it could be your proprietary technology. The basis of this platform is Gramex, which is again based on open standards and which is compatible with all data sources and any other kind of IT system. So that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, and how has IAS helped with scheduler workload?
Yep, so I'll take that one. And I'm sure Tim and Steve can, but I think as we went over it, there was definitely a reduction in workload for schedulers, finding that optimal solution, and even in some cases, reduced headcount needed by schedulers. But I'm sure Tim and Steve have some comments on that as well.
Yeah, I think it certainly made them much more efficient in what they're doing and how they're doing it. In some cases, I know some of our buildings have multiple schedulers. Some buildings only have one. In Bethlehem, where I'm at, we only have one scheduler. So it actually freed up some available time to have them do some other things and actually be able to communicate a little bit more back to the carriers, things that we were not communicating before just because we did not have time. To help us out in our goal to try and improve carrier communication as well. So yes, to Matt's point, it definitely saved.
Okay, and was it built on a low-code platform? I think we've answered that, but yes. Okay, we have just a few more minutes for questions, so if anybody has anything else, go ahead and type it in. But Srini, I wanted you to kind of wrap up in terms of talking about US Cold's data science journey and kind of what we're doing around digital transformation. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, sure. I think to the audience mainly, if somebody's trying to really get onto the digital transformation journey, really I would say start looking around for niche players. who are much more catering towards data science practices as opposed to large players, because then they could you could jeopardize inequality there, which is what we witnessed in the pilot engagement. So and then you kind of, I mean, the low code platform absolutely saved delivery from delivery cost point of view. So that's the key point that we have been talking about, which is great in terms of getting the solution back to the end user on time. Like Steve mentioned, on a weekly basis, we're able to really show a progress of some kind, whether it is a feature or whether it is a small screen change, that really helped us to get the feedback on time. So definitely, you want to stick to the low-code platform. Then user interface is important. You really wanted to keep the user experience without changing drastically from what they have been doing before. So the interfacing with the existing systems definitely helped our users in terms of not having to learn something new. Of course, we took the thinking aspect of it by by putting these algorithms in the back end. But then for an end user, it's a seamless integration. They didn't even know what's happening on the back end. Finally, I would say the process. Make sure you have a very good process in place. I mean, we use funneling process where the ideas kind of trickle down to a funnel, and then how we use this 9-step process of going down to each step in terms of evaluating, building a pilot, and really making a good decision in terms of, are you really adding value by building this feature or product we call. Make sure that you tighten those ropes, and then you have you engage with a steering committee or an operator committee to really vet that out pretty well, so you're not really just wasting money in terms of spending. So those are my points. I think Graminear definitely met all those qualifications for us. Being a niche player, being really flexible in terms of working with our warehouse operators, really delivering on time, and it's very cost effective, I think, end of the day. So that's where I would say you don't want to really spend a lot of money initially. Start low, get the adoption going, sell the idea to the leadership, then really start delivering more products on top. So which I think we are really in that process, in that phase right now. So looking forward to a very good successful journey with Graminear. I really want to thank my people like Steve and team and operation folks who really committed to spend their valuable time in this journey. But overall, it has been a great success and journey, and I'm really looking forward to the future products. So thanks so much.
Great. And we have one last question around the data culture, and that data culture shift from kind of the manual, data structure to this kind of digitalization. So how did that culture shift? How was that managed during the rollout? This was for Graminear.
Yeah, I can take that, but I would want to hear from Steve and Tim as well, because they were there when it was implemented on the field. But what really jumped out for us that I earlier also alluded is the total leadership support and commitment. So that is the one side of the story. And second is also to convince the users, the schedulers in this case. But it is not as easier as it looks like, because there is a technology angle, there is a people angle, and also there is the process angle. And what we have heard today, that process might also change from warehouse to warehouse. So that needs a special attention. So we did that, of course, with the total support from the leadership team, Steve, Tim, and Srini, Dinesh here. But this is what we have experienced firsthand. But if you want to quote a few examples around this, would be really valuable to the audience.
Yeah, and I think Tim alluded earlier that people don't like change. So schedulers who are used to doing something for many years and have their ways and their practices that they think are right, and you come in and tell them that now we have this new system and just follow it. Don't think it's going to tell you to do something different than you're used to doing, but trust it. So it is a big shift, because we do think that we have the right people doing certain jobs, and they feel that they have the best knowledge of how to do it. And with this new use of data and our history, we're asking them to kind of like make some adjustments in how they think, and allow the system to make some recommendations that may differ from what you think is right. And I think that was our biggest challenge. Everybody was first to say, like, I don't know if that's really the right thing to do. The system is doing something wrong. So we had to build confidence. I think once confidence was built in the system, that the system is actually doing something of value and proving it, then we got buy-in and we were able to continue and move forward. So all the work that we did leading up to before we showed it to the users had to be accurate and had to be right and had to have at least enough stability to it to buy in the users that were going to use it. Otherwise, we would lose them and they would just not want to use the system.
I think to Steve's point earlier too, we did get operators involved as well, so they could be part of the process rather than have something where we're just presenting as management. As Steve said, here, use this. This is how it goes now. So they had a part of the process, part of the say, and it's a journey, and we're still on that journey for data science. As Dinesh will tell you, we're working on other things, and we're going to roll some harder things out for folks that are going to have to kind of grasp that data science piece a little bit more even than what we're doing now. And, but we're on that journey and they're starting to get used to that way of thinking. So hopefully it'll make some things easier as we start rolling out more data science projects.
Well, I said there was one last question, so that just came in. How has this helped the drivers' lives? Have you guys seen any feedback from the drivers?
Yes.
Go ahead, Steve.
Warehousing is difficult. It's extremely difficult right now with all the challenges that are in front of us, shortage of drivers, truckers, carriers, equipment, hours a day operation. So at the end of the day, if we could provide a better turn time experience for the driver, we've succeeded. And we are seeing, we're not perfect, but I think we've improved with all the challenges that's still ahead of us, but we're seeing improvements. And the way we know that is through driver feedback. We also take feedback not only through our own users, but we have kiosks in the driver's lounge that give us feedback that come directly to the management staff in each location. And it's how do you rate your experience? And a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times we see it very favorable. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're able to turn trucks in a more efficient time. And we're receiving that feedback. And that's pretty much the measurement. At the end of the day, the drivers will tell us.
Yeah, and I agree with Steve. Like I said, we do have things that give us feedback in that driver lounge directly from the drivers. The carriers certainly, like I said, that communication piece when they're scheduling has definitely been positive, remarks and positive feedback from the carriers themselves. Again, there's typically the dispatchers and things that are actually making the appointments. But as we've been able to level off and some of the other things we've talked about in terms of efficiency, we've seen improvement in that kind of feedback mechanism that we have in place at our sites because of that, and that comes directly from the drivers. So
great. I think we've covered a great group of questions. Thank you to the audience for participating and for sticking with us for this hour. And thank you for all of your questions. I think they were great. Thank you to all of our presenters. I think we all really enjoyed this conversation and the perspective that you all brought to it, so we really appreciate that. And from a USCS perspective, this is really the first step in our digital transformation journey. And we really believe that we are leading the way in the cold-volution, and that's kind of the term we use for moving our industry and our company forward with data-driven decision-making and innovation that directly benefits our customers and our partners. So be on the lookout for our next case study where we're going to highlight our cold-volution journey, and with the help of Graminear. We're going to talk about that process and how we are continuing to be the best in cold. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
thanks.